as a parent, try to make it a family culture, trying to infuse routines in them. This is one of the challenges for parents is they want to help their kids get off their phone, but they can't get off it themselves. How do we parent our kids to do something that we ourselves have not even gotten a handle on?
Welcome to the Imperfectly Empowered podcast with DIY healthy lifestyle blogger, ahnafulmer, empowering you to transform your life, one imperfect day at a time.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Imperfectly Empowered podcast. I am your host, ahnafulmer. Your heart is racing. Your stomach is burning. Your chest feels tight. It is hard to take a deep breath. You are struggling with anxiety, and you are not alone. Anxiety is the number one mental health disorder in the United States, with over 40 million adults reportedly diagnosed. That's just the adults diagnosed. But here's the important thing to understand. Before we even get into the 5 proven strategies that I am going to share with you to help deal with anxiety, one includes an incredible breathing technique that will also help you fall asleep faster. I want to highlight something really important that most people don't talk about when they talk about anxiety. Anxiety, at its best, is a natural and even healthy human response. Anxiety protects us. It is an inherently God-given protective mechanism to stressors in our life, empowering the body to respond in a fight or flight situation. Let me give you an example. My clients have heard me give them this example, my fitness nutrition clients. When I was 8.5 months pregnant, we were at a Father's Day pool party with our family, large family, lots of people around. And we had just all gotten out of the pool. I shouldn't say I was dressed, fully dressed. I had never even gotten in the pool, but my kids, more importantly, had all just gotten out of the pool. Caleb would have been 2.5 at this point. I even said, as we all got out of the pool, we need to watch Caleb because he would be the kid who would just walk right in. Everybody's gathering around the food, talking. We might have been about to pray or something. I don't even remember. When I heard a splash, and I instantly knew that was my son. I just knew that was my son that probably just walked into the pool. And lo and behold, he had, at 2.5, just stepped right off the edge into the 6-foot deep end. Anxiety, the fight or flight response, kicked in to my body, enabling my 8.5, my nearly 9-month pregnant self to instantly respond and jump in after him. There was nothing graceful about it. There was no swan diving. There was no hero type of, there was nothing movie worthy about this jump into the pool. It was more like a whale flopping into the pool. But the point is this, I was able to respond very, very quickly because of that fight or flight response that went on in my body. I also think Zach's uncle jumped in as well. I think there was 2 of us, and I got him off the bottom where he was sinking very quickly to the bottom. And I got him off, and I am 5'3", so I couldn't even stand. And I don't float even when pregnant. Don't know why. And I basically hauled him up to Zach's uncle, who had also jumped in as well. What happens in this fight or flight response, which is also what happens in anxiety? It is the same thing. It is the systemic release of adrenaline or epinephrine in the body. And what this does is it elevates the heart rate, increases gastric acid, dilates the pupils, and grants the body this necessary surge of energy to respond in cases of emergency, this fight or flight response. Under healthy circumstances, then, the body returns to its physiologic baseline over the next hour or so. In this case, again, being pregnant, it might have taken me a little bit longer, but eventually my heart rate went back to normal. I might have still probably had a little bit of abdominal cramping, not because of gastric acid, but because of the fact that I was only a couple weeks away from having Lily at the time. But the point is, I was able to return to a physiologic baseline. My heart rate returned to normal. I no longer had that surge of increased gastric acid. I wasn't breathing too fast. My body returned to baseline. Here's the problem with chronic anxiety. At its worst, anxiety can become a debilitating chronic condition that results in a sustained state of increased adrenaline. Remember that adrenaline that initially kicked in and enabled me to save my son? When that sense of fight or flight, stress response, adrenaline, when that level of adrenaline is slightly elevated all of the time, causing, don't forget, remember what I said, adrenaline elevates heart rate, causes chest tightness, feeling like it's difficult to breathe. It can cause acid reflux because of that increase in gastric acid. So there's a sustained state of increased adrenaline and systemic cortisol, which can contribute to high blood pressure, stomach ulcers, obesity, diabetes. The problem is physiologically what's happening when you live in a chronic state of anxiety where there's just this slightly elevated systemic release of adrenaline and ultimately cortisol, it contributes to chronic medical conditions, which can also then consequently prevent fat loss. But I want you to understand that anxiety in and of itself is a natural human response and even protective. There is nothing inherently wrong with anxiety. Chronic anxiety, however, is a different story. Having worked in an emergency department for over a decade, I am a firm believer in pharmaceutical treatment as a means to stabilize an emergent condition, right? If you come in with your blood pressure so high that you're about to have a stroke, I am not going to simply suggest that you go home and start exercising more and eating less salt and more vegetables, right? Because emergently speaking, you're at the risk of having an acute stroke. So we need to offer some sort of pharmaceutical intervention to help stabilize the emergent condition with the end goal of treating the underlying cause and ultimately living free of preventative disease. Why do I say that? Because I'm about to offer you 5 proven holistic strategies. But in my world, I don't believe that holistic strategies are mutually exclusive of traditional or pharmaceutical intervention. And I want to make that very clear. But pharmaceutical intervention, for the most part, in more cases than not, is necessary to stabilize so that the underlying condition can be treated, with the goal then, of course, slowly tapering the pharmaceutical intervention. For some, maybe these holistic strategies will help prevent the need for pharmaceutical intervention, will help manage anxiety. But for others, pharmacological intervention may be necessary to stabilize one's mental health, allowing for strategic implementation of these holistic techniques with the hope of being able to safely taper down prescription therapy or pharmaceuticals while treating the underlying cause. It is important to me that I point that out. This is an integrative approach. And again, everyone's story is different, but I want to help equip you with these proven strategies. And parents, this needs to be shared with your kids, with your children. Make sure you listen the whole way to the end, because I'm going to share with you a breathing technique that is excellent at not only reducing the body's stress response to anxiety, but also to help you fall asleep faster at night. Tip number 1 is what I call a cardio endorphin blast. A cardio endorphin blast. You have heard it said before all over Pinterest. There's these little, pins that say this cute quote. You've seen it probably on Twitter or I don't know, wherever you get your memes and quotes and inspiration or whatever. But it has been said before that food is the most overused anti-anxiety drug and exercise is the most underutilized antidepressant. However, I'm going to flip the script. In my experience, it may be more accurate to say that food is the most overused antidepressant and exercise the most underused anti-anxiety treatment. Let me say that one more time. Food is the most overused antidepressant and exercise is the most underused anti-anxiety treatment. To be clear, a cardio endorphin blast is not the same as exercise per se. But what it is a high intensity workout that sustains a target heart rate of greater than 130 beats per minute for 20 to 30 minutes in order to systemically release high levels of endorphins, which in turn resembles the euphoric effects of narcotic drugs, for example, like morphine. It is a similar response in the body. Depending on your level of fitness and cardiac endurance, a speed walk may be enough to obtain this. People hear when I say cardio endorphin blast and they hear like high interval or high intensity workout, I should say, and a high trying to get a high heart rate, and they feel kind of overwhelmed, like I'm just not in enough shape to be able to do that. Understand this. The key is not necessarily the exact exercise that you are doing. The key is that sustained heart rate because you want to improve your cardiac endurance. You want to actually help remodel your heart. People don't think about the heart as a muscle, but it is literally one big muscle about the size of your fist. When you are able to sustain that heart rate greater than 130 beats per minute with a high intensity workout, which for you might be a speed walk, this will help release those endorphins. For others like myself, I am in good cardiovascular shape. A speed walk would probably not get my heart rate high enough. For me, it might require a run. I have personally used this strategy at some of the most stressful points in my life, and it works. I am telling you, it works. I could be starting, I have to drag myself to get the run started. That's the problem, is you just got to do it. You've got to get it started. But the endorphin release is very real. So again, remember, it is sustaining a target heart rate of greater than 130 beats per minute for ideally 30 minutes, but 20 to 30 minutes. Some is better than none. If 20 minutes is all you've got, that's great. Do it. One way to maximize this strategy, though, is to get ahead of the anxiety. This is something you will not hear people talk about, but this is a really, really effective way of trying to prevent the degree of anxiety that may be coming. So I personally use it more, have used this strategy more when I am already anxious. I ran a lot when my best friend was dying of cancer and I was helping take care of her. This was I just was so full of anxiety at that point and stress and grief and all of it. I ran, there were days that I ran twice a day because this was an anti-anxiety method for me. But one way to utilize this is to actually get this cardio endorphin blast in before a known trigger. One of the ways to know your triggers is to be journaling anxiety triggers, and you have to be in touch with your emotions. You have to have a clear sense of, I'm not feeling great right now. I'm getting that feeling like uncomfortable, right? It's an uncomfortable feeling. Heart rate's up a little bit. It's like an uncomfortable emotion. ultimately creating this response. You should be journaling that. Keep track of that on your phone. Maybe it's a person in your life. Help your kids through this as well. If you notice that they're struggling with anxiety, you need to help them start thinking through, when do you feel this way? One, you have to be willing to get in touch with your uncomfortable emotions. If you have not listened to the podcast with Dr. Shahana Alibai, it is all about emotional intelligence and improving emotional illiteracy to better your mental health. We talk all about this. You need to learn to get comfortable with uncomfortable emotions. It will improve your mental health. This is a great example of that. Start journaling when you are feeling this emotional response that is resulting in anxiety. Maybe you already know some of these triggers. Maybe it's like Aunt Bessie. Aunt Bessie is, for whatever reason, just like an anxiety trigger in your life, but she's also family. And you're going to see her at Christmas. You can't help it, right? You got to see Aunt Bessie at Christmas time. Get a cardio endorphin blast in before your family get together. I am telling you, it will help. It does not necessarily mean the absence of any of those emotions or the anxiety that results, but it will help manage it, which is the goal. Again, anxiety is a natural part of our human existence. Don't misunderstand that. Anxiety is normal, natural, and even healthy and protective. The problem is you need to learn to manage it so you're not living with these elevated baselines of cortisol, adrenaline, etc. So get that cardio endorphin blast in before you see Aunt Bessie. Speed walk, run, elliptical, bike, treadmill, a swim, a HIIT workout, a 30-minute HIIT workout. Google it, search on YouTube. Without significant breaks, you want to try to keep that heart rate up a little bit. Over 130 beats per minute, ideally, 20 to 30 minutes. A way of truly being able to track this is to get a heart rate monitor like the heart rate monitor watches. There are some really, really budget-friendly ones on Amazon. Also great for your kids to practice as well. I would say like teens would be able to do this, or if they're in sports and already, running for 20 or 30 minutes a day. This is another really great way to help them practice managing and reducing their anxiety to prevent a chronic state of anxiety. Cardio endorphin blast. Proven strategy number 2 is maximizing deep REM sleep. Sleep is the body's holistic reset button. Anybody who's hung out here with me has heard me say this before. Sleep is literally one of the best interventions that you can do for your body, improving your sleep, that you can possibly do for all aspects of human health, all of it, emotional, mental, physical, social, and spiritual. Sleep is huge. Maximizing deep REM sleep as regards to anxiety quickly yields way to this like chicken versus egg type of conversation, right? Many who struggle with anxiety often have difficulty sleeping well, but it is also true that when one routinely does not maximize deep REM sleep, the likelihood of experiencing anxiety and poor mental health increases as well. So again, chicken, egg can be a little challenging, but the bottom line, how does one improve their sleep? There are multiple strategies. I did an entire podcast episode on 13 ways to sleep better at night. There's another great podcast that I did with a gut health expert. So just search gut health and you'll be able to hear that. She shared a lot of ways that food can also be causing poor sleep at night. I'm not going to rehash, the podcast episodes that I've already done, but I will share this. One of the best ways to improve sleep at night is to go to bed and wake up approximately around the same time every night and day. I am better at waking up at the same time. I am not as good about going to bed at the same time. I think that's true for most of us. But scheduling and having your body on a consistent sleep-wake cycle has been shown in the research to result in better REM sleep than quantity of sleep. So the idea is you want to maximize the human body still needs approximately 8 hours, generally speaking, but improving your sleep is essential to your mental health. Here's the one other thing that I will add to sleep is that you need to avoid screen time, especially if that screen time involves social media or the news. You need to let your brain rest. We will talk about this more, but the point is screens are essential, especially depending on the information that you are putting in to your mind before bed. It is not the time. I've also done a post on techniques to make your bedroom a relaxing retreat. Bedrooms should be relaxing. There's like one recreational activity that should be happening in your bedroom. Probably don't need to elaborate on that. But otherwise, it should be used for sleep. Get the TV out of your bedroom. And then, of course, don't miss the technique at the end that will also help you fall asleep faster. But this leads into proven strategy. Number 3, we are seeing more and more research around our phones as related to our mental health. You have heard this before, I am sure. I will not be the first one to tell you this. But my question for you is, I'm telling it to you, but will you do anything about it? Because here's the issue. I remember working in the emergency department, how many moms would come in with their teens who had stomach problems and pain. Everything was fine, blood work, CAT scans, etc. And when you really dive into it, I'm sure the gut pain was more related to anxiety, possibly foods that they were eating, but also probably anxiety and their phones. Same is true for parents. There are multiple studies now suggesting a very strong correlation between the mere presence of one cell phone and depression and anxiety. And I have no doubt we will continue to see more. Prioritizing phone-free time in your day is essential to optimizing emotional and mental well-being. There are several ways to implement this strategy. 1, look for a phone-free time app. It literally locks your phone. The app that I love the most is called Lock My Phone. I think in parentheses, then after Lock My Phone, it says Zen mode for studying or something. Lock My Phone. It's a free app. It will lock your phone. You cannot get in unless you pay like $2 or something to open it early. Lock My Phone so that you can't even get on. You can't even get on. Figure out what time of day that you want this to happen. Lock your phone. Lock your kid's phone. Help them get into this routine. As I mentioned before, get it out of the bedroom. Do not sleep with your phone in your room. Even if you put it on sleep mode. Again, studies have shown simply having your phone around, it's like a trigger. It's like a stress trigger. If you use your cell phone as an alarm, people buy an old-fashioned alarm clock. Train your bedroom to be a place of quiet, stillness, and rest. Parents, again, cannot reiterate this enough for your teens and your kids. You are the parent. Get the phone out of their room. One of the other things, to point out here is, when you are considering this phone-free time, as a parent, try to make it a family culture, trying to infuse routines in them. This is one of the challenges for parents is they want to help their kids get off their phone, but they can't get off it themselves, right? How do we parent our kids to do something that we ourselves have not even gotten a handle on? So try, if you're motivated to help your kids get off your phone, use that as an opportunity to practice it yourself. And as a family, practice phone-free time. This can be especially hard to do when one's job is virtual, like mine. And I myself have to keep working at the strategy because I want the time with my kids to be as free of a phone as possible. Do what you need to do. Put it away, out of sight. Your pocket does not count, by the way. Away from your person. Proven strategy number 4. Second to the last strategy, which is this breathing technique. This is without a doubt one of the most effective strategies for managing anxiety long term. And I'll explain how. Establishing an early morning routine. And as part of that routine, incorporating a quiet time, reflection time, a devotional time, whatever verbiage you want to give to it. There are so many benefits to establishing a consistent early morning routine. But one of the great benefits of this practice is learning how to still one's mind. Remember that I mentioned that app, Lock My Phone? I'll tell you how I even know about that app, because I have spent years honing and establishing an early morning routine. I am not an early morning person by nature at all. And I won't go into this now. I did a whole podcast on 7 tips to establish an early morning routine, but I had to force myself to become an early morning person. And it's life-changing. It is life-giving. There's a lot of research around early morning routines as well. It increases productivity, general sense of happiness in life. But one of the things that is life-changing about establishing an early morning routine is learning the art of stilling one's mind. Here's an example. Too often, the first thing we start our day with is swiping open our phones. But this, in today's society, this is equivalent to basically rolling out of bed and stepping right into the door of work, or right into the door of school, or right into the door of the newsroom. We are instantly flooded with the overwhelming chaos of virtual information, which translates into psychological noise. We are instantly filled with multiple narratives as soon as we swipe open our phone. I have started using the Lock My Phone app because my downfall is as soon as I open my phone in the morning, I see emails that I need to respond to. And the productive part of me is like, well, let's just knock this out right now. But no, this needs to be my quiet time where I am reading my Bible, I am praying. There's other ways to do this, but practice starting the day without your phone for a set period of time. And, maybe you're not reading a Bible or a devotional, but there is so much good evidence surrounding the practice of journaling gratitude, such as a simple way of doing this. Writing down one anxiety that you have. Piece of paper, by the way, not on your phone, not on your laptop, old-fashioned piece of paper. Writing down what is one fear, what is one anxiety, just one. You don't have to write the whole list. Again, this is going to be an every morning kind of a thing. You don't have to write a massive list. It does not need to take long. What is one thing that maybe kept you awake the night before? The one primary thing. Write it down. Give it space to exist. In one word, how did that make you feel? I will give you an example of exactly what I wrote. I think this was yesterday. I am anxious about finding and buying our forever property. We're currently living in a rental house. I am anxious about finding and buying our forever property. So that could just simply say, where's the one thing that you're anxious about? Finding our forever property. And then how does it make you feel? What is the emotion? What is the uncomfortable emotion that is ultimately at the heart of that mental worry and anxiety? For me, realistically, I think it's the emotion of being out of control, which can lead to fear, uncertainty, But then what you do is you don't end there, but you give the uncomfortable emotions that you're feeling, the worry that is in your head, the anxiety, and you're giving it a space to exist. People do the opposite, and we try to put it out of our minds. What is actually making us anxious, we try to bury so that we don't think about it, therefore making us more anxious. But the reality is, it is proven to be more effective to acknowledge what it is that is making you anxious. Speaking it, it's that whole adage, like, name it to tame it. You probably have heard that phrase too. It's that idea that in order to tame that feeling of anxiety and whatever it is that is making you anxious and resulting in an uncomfortable emotion, it is better to give it space to exist and acknowledge it. Write it down, look at it, and you might be surprised at how you're like, oh, that has no power over me. Because here's what you're going to do next. You are going to cover it with 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 things. If I asked you right now, tell me 3 things that you're grateful for. Here's what a lot of you will do. My kids, my health, my house, my freedom. Or you'll sit for a while and you'll have to think about it. You guys, you need to learn to see gratitude in the littlest of things. I am telling you, it will completely change your entire approach to anxiety. I experience anxiety just like anybody else. But I have practiced this without even knowing that it was a thing for quite a few years. And it is this. It is taking a high level overview, a high level perspective, looking at the big picture, but also naming the little things that you are grateful for, because it could always be worse. It could always be worse. That sounds really like negative, but the reality is it's actually a gratitude practice. It could be worse. At least I have running water. Pivoting toilet paper holders. I don't know why. I'm extremely grateful for them. I'm sorry. It is the most annoying thing in the world to replace. Like, you have to do the little spring thing and then it flies off of the toilet paper holder and like smashes up against the wall, and you're on the toilet and you can't go get the stupid spring thing that just flew off. Like the little pivoting ones that just pivot up. You set that roll on. Like, life-changing. I'm grateful for those. I'm grateful for whoever invented them. Coffee. Electricity. Homemade iced tea. The list goes on and on. Literally, you just simply write down 3 things. Anything that comes to mind from the day before, write it down. Cover that fear, that anxiety, that worry, that uncomfortable emotion that is resulting in this narrative in your mind that is building up to this chronic state of anxiety. Acknowledge it, give it space, and then instantly cover it with 3 things that you're grateful for, the littlest of things. Gratitude practices, get in the habit of it. Fill your mind first thing with calming truths instead of busy nothings. Fill your mind first thing in the morning with calming truths instead of busy nothings. Again, I shared 7 tips to establish an early morning routine in a different podcast, blog post. Be sure to check it out. It is one of the most life-changing practices, especially when you incorporate that practice of gratitude and giving space to your anxiety and the uncomfortable emotions that are behind it. Okay, proven strategy number 5. I don't remember where it was that I read this or learned about it. I kind of think it was in my second master's when I was in my family nurse practitioner program. I worked with an integrative nurse practitioner. She was absolutely amazing. And I kind of feel like this is when I first learned of it, but it's called the 4-7-8 breathing method. It is an excellent technique to not only decrease your response to anxiety, your body's response, it is also very effective at helping you fall asleep faster. You still have to put in all the other practices to make your bedroom a place of relaxation. But this is a great technique. I've encouraged many patients to use this over the years. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can take a screenshot of this instruction sheet. It's going to come up on the screen. You can take a screenshot of it, or you can visit the show notes for a printable instruction sheet. This is a great place to hang on a mirror for one of your children if they struggle with anxiety, if they struggle at night, to simply just have on your fridge, wherever you feel like you need it. Again, it's very easy to remember. But this is ultimately what you do. One, you want to completely exhale. You almost make like a whooshing sound and completely exhale the whole way. And then for 4 seconds, you are going to slowly breathe in your nose with your mouth closed, like this. And then you hold for 7. Again, on the video, you can see me doing this, and I'm using my fingers to count. But you breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, mouth closed and in your nose. Then you hold for 7. And then you slowly breathe out through pursed lips for 8. Now, I'm able to breathe out for a lot longer through pursed lips for longer than 8 seconds. That is fine. Keep going. The idea is that you want to slowly fill your lungs with air. You hold it. This is, there's kind of a vagus nerve response that's happening if you really care about the physiological details, but it's ultimately like a nerve response that's helping everything sort of slow down. It's like a vagal nerve. And then you just slowly blow out. I can usually blow out for longer than 8. I don't stop blowing out at 8. I just let it all slowly breathe out. Slowly let all the air out through pursed lips. And then you can repeat as needed. Again, fully exhale. And then slowly in for 4. Hold for 7. Slowly out through pursed lips for 8. I have worked with my oldest daughter is 9 and she is a night owl. She has a very hard time falling asleep. She already has friends who take medicine to help them sleep at night. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm already proactively trying to help her learn these strategies to fall asleep because physiologically speaking, if you start medicine now, it's very hard to get off of it. It's very hard and your body gets used to it. So try to work with your kids with these practices. We will do the breathing technique together. She now does do it on her own. But you've got to put other things into place. Totally dark room. Keep it on the cooler side. Anyways, there's so many strategies to falling asleep better and sleeping better because of the environment in your bedroom. I've already addressed that in different podcasts, but I would love to know, have you tried any of these strategies? I know some of you have messaged me over the last couple of years as I've shared these with clients and on Instagram. And I'm so grateful when you guys give me your feedback. I had a client the other day say, "Oh my word, I tried your 4-7-8 breathing method. It's not my method, but you know what I mean. I tried that method and I couldn't believe how well it worked." So I love hearing that. Drop it in the comments. If you've used any of these strategies in the past, do you have tips as well that you have learned that have worked really well for you? Again, anxiety at its best is healthy. It's natural. It's protective. At its worst, it can be debilitating. I hope these strategies help you learn how to deal with anxiety, how to manage it better so that you can thrive. Hey guys, Anna here. If you found this video helpful, then you do not want to miss this video right here beside me on the screen. Click on it. I know you're going to enjoy it. You guys remember, you cannot be redefined, only redeveloped, one imperfect day at a time. Your story matters, and you are loved.